What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here. I know there are a lot of you that are considering upgrading your first generation iPad to the second generation model, and I also know there are a good chunk of you that are considering cashing in on the $100 cheaper price of the first generation model. So I want to help clarify whether or not it's going to be worth your hard-earned money to upgrade, or whether or not you're better sticking with or purchasing the first generation. So let's go ahead and put these two head to head. So let's run through some of the most salient specs of these two tablets. The screens on both are exactly the same. Diagonal 9.7 inch with a resolution of 1024 by 768 and 132 ppi, which stands for pixels per inch. The first generation is running Apple's A4 system-on-a-chip processor. That's a single core clocked in at 1 gigahertz. The iPad2 is running the updated A5 chip. It's a dual-core processor, clocking in each core at 1 gigahertz. So you're potentially going to get double the processing speed. From a RAM standpoint, the first generation iPad, and we only know this because of iFixit's teardown, has 256 megabytes of RAM compared to the iPad 2's 512. Cameras, we don't have them on the first gen. We've got two on the iPad 2. We've got a VGA camera up top, and on the back we've got an unknown resolution that takes 720p video and takes still image. If you're curious what the video quality is, there'll be a link down below. I did a full video showing the quality of the video capture on the iPad 2. From a color standpoint, iPad 1 only comes in black. iPad 2 you can get in black or white. Of course, this is the white version. And you can get iPad 2 on the 3G models either on Verizon or AT&T. If you wanted to go 3G with the first generation, you are limited to just AT&T. So it's got an extra core, it's got double the RAM, but how does that translate to a user experience? The iPad 2 is definitely faster, but how much faster is it going to be? Well, let's go ahead and run some speed tests. Let's go ahead and close everything that's open, and I know that it doesn't matter all that much when it comes to the Apple products leaving stuff open in the background, but I want to make sure that we have everything closed. We're going to run a browser speed test. These are running on Wi-Fi on the same Wi-Fi networks. Generally, I don't clear the cache before I do these video comparisons. I like to show what it's going to look like for a website you visit regularly. However, I'm going to make the exception here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to clear the cache. So we'll go ahead and clear cache, clear it there, and we'll do the same thing on the first generation iPad. You know, I never thought the first generation iPad was slow. You definitely notice a speed difference on the iPad 2, but let's see how much a difference that's going to be. Alright, so cache has been cleared. Let's go ahead and load up Techno Buffalo on each. Alright, so let's go ahead and queue that up. Got it ready to go there. Let's do the same thing on the first generation. Let's go ahead and push them at the same time, or at least attempt to. Alright, and they are off and again connected to the same Wi-Fi network. Of course, iPad 1 on the left, iPad 2 on the right. iPad 2 has almost loaded the entire website. iPad 1 is still loading. iPad 2 is done. iPad 1 is about halfway. We haven't even seen the content show up yet. And I should mention this is a pretty fast Wi-Fi network. Speeds range anywhere from 30 to 40 megabits per second. So now we're starting to see some content. It's queued up, almost done. Still loading. So clearly what we're seeing, at least with Techno Buffalo, is the iPad 2 handles it much, much faster. However, is that representative of other sites, or is it just maybe Techno Buffalo is more optimized for the iPad 2, or has more pictures and is intensive that takes better advantage of what the iPad 2 has to offer? iPad 1 here is still loading, so let's just suffice it to say that the iPad 2 is significantly quicker, at least in this test, for loading the site. Let's go ahead and load the YouTube channel. So that'll be youtube.com/John4Lakers, and let's see if there's any sort of speed difference here. And this is still loading, and now it is done. So let's go ahead and try and get both of these to load at the same time and see if there's any sort of speed difference. Alright, so those are both set at the same time to load, and these are just representative tests. Certainly there are a ton of other websites we could run and try. This one looks a little bit quicker. iPad 2 finished just a hair before. Let's see how scrolling works. Both looks pretty smooth. Pinch to zoom, pretty smooth on each. Not that giant a difference. I will say in browsing tests, the Techno Buffalo test was a bit on the unique side. The iPad 2 is definitely quicker. It's not a giant amount quicker when loading websites, especially on the same Wi-Fi network, but it's definitely a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and try a YouTube video. So we'll go ahead and close both of these, and we'll open the YouTube player. How quickly does it open, and how quickly does the video come up? So let's go ahead and open these, and we'll do some app tests too in just a minute as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and go to My Videos, and this is playing some here, playing some here. I was watching a car review. Let's go ahead and go to My Videos and My Videos, and we'll play the same one. So here is the photo booth video for the iPad 2 that I did. Actually, let's do the red, white, and blue iPhone unboxing. That was kind of fun. Let's go ahead and hit them both at the same time. iPad 2 again, just a little bit quicker. Starts playing the content. And I was hearing myself in stereo. But again, iPad 2 being just a little bit quicker, and that's going to be a theme that we're going to see as we continue to go through everything here. Alright, let's go ahead and close out of this. And again, since we sort of close everything, we should have exactly the same applications open in the background. Settings, browser, and YouTube. So let's try some of the same applications that are obviously meant for each. Let's start with Angry Birds, one of my favorite games. So we'll go ahead and move on over. Angry Birds here, Angry Birds there, Angry Birds everywhere. Let's go ahead and try and open these at the same time, which is really sometimes harder than you'd think it would be. And let's see if there's any sort of speed difference. So we definitely saw it load up there on the iPad 2 faster. Now we're seeing the screen. So again, a little bit faster. And now we're ready to play on the iPad 2, almost ready to play on the iPad 1. This was definitely a significant difference. That's probably a direct result of the faster processor and increased RAM. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this. And close this again. And to keep everything fair, I'm going to go ahead and close all the applications here that are running in the background as well, just to make sure that everything is optimized. I know it's sort of application switching, and this isn't necessary, but I do want to keep things as fair as possible. Alright, next let's open up a very intensive game. We'll open up Infinity Blade. Now the iPad 2 has the potential to have 9 times the graphic prowess of the first generation. Infinity Blade is one of the more intensive games out there, so let's see if we notice any difference in speed and graphics quality. I will say that the screens here are exactly the same, so if one looks brighter or not brighter, we should have had the brightness set at exactly the same. So you shouldn't notice any screen difference. You can see the brightness there is almost identical. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up Infinity Blade, and this is a pretty intensive game again. I actually haven't played this one as much as I'd like. So Unreal Engine, you see it kicks up much faster, again on the iPad 2. Epic Games, it's like almost watching things in a slower mirror here on the iPad 1. Alright, let's go ahead and hit play. Looks like now we are just about ready to play. Content Pack 2 coming soon. That's great. Let's go ahead and skip out of this. Hit play here. We should have the same message pop up, and it did indeed. So you're looking at this a bit sideways, but hopefully you can still see the content. Let me go ahead and see if I can push them like this, and you can see the graphics performance of both. So move around. You can look at exactly the same thing there. They both look pretty good. I'm not really noticing that much graphics difference on the iPad 2 versus the iPad 1. Alright, let's go ahead and close out of these. And certainly we could get a little bit more granular, but in the interest of time, we'll say they both look decent. The iPad 2 definitely has more potential. And the potential is really the big differentiating factor here. So right now, most of the applications that were built with the iPad 1 in mind, and the iPad 1's power in mind. Applications moving forward will probably be shifted to the iPad 2's power. It's potentially double the CPU and potentially 9 times better graphics. So while you might not see a big difference now between the iPad 1 and the iPad 2 when performance comes into play in games, I definitely are going to see that moving forward. So that being said, is the iPad 2 worthwhile to upgrade over your iPad 1? And for me and for my money, the resounding answer is no. I don't see much of a compelling reason to upgrade from the iPad 2 to the iPad 1. It's certainly, you're going to get a little bit faster speed, you're going to get a little bit better graphics performance. But the iPad 1 is still an extremely capable device. I think you're going to be better off saving your money unless you have to have the latest generation product, or you can sell it for a good deal. I think you're going to be better off hanging on to the iPad 1. And if you're looking for a bargain, you might want to pick up an iPad 1 for $100 off. Come in all the same configurations as the iPad 2. If you've been waiting to pick up an iPad and $100 doesn't matter that much to you, certainly go for the iPad 2. The increased speed and performance is going to be nice to have. It's 33% thinner, which is definitely a nice thing. It feels a little bit lighter in the hand. You're going to get the same sort of 10-hour battery life. You can see the two of those side by side. One last thing to mention when you compare these two, the iPad 2 doesn't have what I call the iPad wiggle. When you push it on a desk and you push on the corners, it stays flat. The iPad 1 has a little bit of that wiggle. The iPad 1 is still an extremely capable device and is, according to most people, head and shoulders above the closest competition, at least right now. So you're going to get a device that's going to be capable for the next year or so. Again, if you're looking to sort of dive into the tablet world, the iPad 2 might be your best bet, but it's not the most compelling of upgrades. Anyway, guys, I want to hear from you and what you have to say. Whether or not you think the iPad 2 is worth the upgrade, whether or not the color alone is worth it, getting it on Verizon or the thinness. Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Did you see any big difference in speed that would make a difference for you? Leave all your comments down below. Be sure to check out technobuffalo.com for all your tech news. I'm John Rettinger, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.